Welcome, everyone. So today is our question of the day that we'll kind of go in and out of here and there in the moment will be what is the best non-Sapphire deck? We are going to be breaking down the LCCC today. I still think the name is ridiculously long, and it's so hard to continuously say it, but we're breaking it down. But if you're hanging out with us and joining, please, we'll come back. We'll touch on this again. I'm gonna pop in. I'm gonna say good morning. My coffee is over there. I messed up. I'm gonna have to go get it eventually. And I do have a special, very, very special guest this morning, very early for Mr. Lorcana Man. How are you doing this morning, sir? You just woke up, took your kids to school, and jumped on stream with me.
Yeah, good. And without like any notice, I was just like, hey, yeah, come by. You're like, I'm gonna be on in an hour. So I was like, all right.
yeah. Some days I expect it to work out like that. Some days,
Sure.
I said on Tuesday, like this is kind of like my free period. I'm kind of like just in between like my busy schedule for work. Yeah. So I'm just gonna be doing this. I'm doing my best to bring on some featured community members. For those that do not know who Lorcana Man is, how about you just give me your little spiel and so everyone can figure out, and be like, oh yeah, I've seen that reel. I know that guy.
Oh yeah. Okay. So hey everyone, I'm Lorcana Man. My name's Howard. Real name's Howard. Have an Instagram channel, Lorcana Man, and I post funny memes on Lorcana. I also showcase kind of, I would say like the LGS TCG lifestyle. I'm a new player to the game. This is my first TCG ever, so come check out my channel. You can, especially if you like Lorcana. And thanks, Stan, for having me on. Appreciate it.
Of course. We're also going to quickly bring it up for everyone. It is also, if you're on YouTube, it's already in the description. So you can just go and click on it and find it because I knew he was coming, guys. I wasn't even sure, but I felt like it was going to happen. So I put it in there anyway. Oh, I streamed the wrong thing. I'm the worst. Here's our Instagram. So here is Mr. Lorcana Man hanging out. He does every once in a while. I'm not an Instagram person. Like I'm on there, probably like once a day to pick up. But for some reason, every time I go on, I always see something funny that you post. It always makes me laugh. So at the very least, you're kicking ass that way. And you do a lot, right? Like you do you were just saying you were in New York doing some stuff.
Yeah.
Card in this set, and it was this Tanana vanilla card, and at the LGSs I play at, people whenever they pull this card, they asked me to sign it. I think it's kind of fun. This is my buddy Constella. He got the first one signed. Alexa.
I feel like I'm gonna get yelled at by copyright strikes if I keep continue.
Yeah. There's just random content that I put up there, just mostly promoting, just especially if you're a new player or someone who just wants a quick laugh, just the TCG lifestyle. It's a unique crowd. I'm new to this, and Dan, I've been watching you since the beginning. Forbidden Mountain. You guys helped me a lot. You guys actually taught me how to play. Love watching your videos on the different deck lists. Mm-hmm. How to use them, what to counter with them. So since the beginning, thank you for being that resource.
Thank you.
And my side is less of the competitive side, more of like the collecting and the fun parts of it. I do try to do some deck profiles of unique decks. Funny enough, we just did one on the Sapphire Steel before Zan did it on the Iron thing as a joke, and it became a thing. So
I think it's interesting too because doing it. What is you'll probably know the answer better than I do. What is the max amount of time we have on a reel?
Now you could go up to 3 minutes.
Before even then, like 3 minute deck tech is kind of impressive.
Yeah. Sometimes I do a full video, like it'll be a big video. Sometimes it's really short. Yeah. So I try to mix it up, but a lot of the decks we profile are like weird decks that I see in my local scene.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just want to promote having a good time and most importantly promoting the community.
Let's talk about your local scene. So where are we based out of?
I'm based in the 626, which is the San Gabriel Valley area. Mm-hmm. So we have a pretty good competitive scene. As you guys know, Sean, who's going to Worlds, he's from here as well. Okay. We had a couple guys win their LCQ pod. So we're not like a hyper competitive area, but we're in a competitive environment, I guess. So like we all go there, we all have fun, we all play test once in a while, but we got a lot of great shops here at DXN representing one of the shops that are around here.
Love it.
Wildcard Cyclone. So we could play every day if we wanted to in my area. So that's pretty cool.
It's like a blessing and a curse.
Yes, it is. It is. Like I do play a lot. And I don't consider myself a hyper competitive player. I consider myself more of a collector and a connoisseur.
Now, were you just like a Disney fan or?
Yeah, so how I started, I just wanted to collect one of every card. That's all I wanted to do. And that was it. Like collect one of every card and be done with it. And then someone at work taught me how to play. And I was like, I know how to play this.
You guys hooked in like
yeah. I just wanted one of every card. And I pulled like 2 Elsas in set 1.
Oh, okay.
I was like, man, I'll be really
right.
I think I was like, I'm gonna be really good. I can play against these people. And then I didn't know how to play. I would like keep an Elsa in my hand, like not, like
pre-mulligan.
I would keep it in my hand.
Yeah, well, it's so beautiful. You just wanted to play.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I can't wait to play this. And then you'd brick when you're Ruby M. And then my friend was like, no, you're supposed to throw that away and then wait to get it later. And I was like, oh, so like through the year of playing, I kind of learned how to play a little bit more. And Dan, we actually played against each other.
I was waiting to bring it up. I was gonna get there. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Yeah, we it was Chicago, right?
I
don't remember what round it was, but I know it was in Chicago.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting down and having a phenomenal conversation with you afterwards. It was actually one of my Chicago is my least favorite DLC because it was the only DLC I felt like I made a bad decision and I just like didn't have a good time. But you were one of the few conversations that weekend. It was also I met Dan and Lily that weekend and they were really cool. But you were definitely one of those conversations I had where I'm like, all right, I can respect this guy. I can chalk with this guy on a random Thursday in March. It's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's cool. It's interesting because that just speaks to what Disney Lorcana is, right? Like it just speaks to how, you have this incredible Instagram following. You're over 3,000 followers on Instagram, which is insane. And you're just a guy that just loves the game. You do great work for community. Like you just said, you came on here, just named 2 or 3 local stores in the area, which is I respect gratefully because I wish we would have more of those things in Philadelphia. It's something I talk about all the time. Like there are stores, but they're just, they're not really committed. They're just committed to 3 hours a week and maybe just being content with 8 people in their store.
Yeah. And
they're never trying, no one's trying to move past that. It's very frustrating. So it's nice that we have these stores all over, especially because it's so funny. We always hear jokes about the West Coast not having big tournaments. We are a little bit spoiled on the East Coast. It just feels like maybe we're a little bit more, I guess, risk averse. We're like, whatever. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, they're slowly I think that things happen first in the East Coast, as they say. Even with fashion, right?
Yeah.
I think we're slowly getting there. There's 1 or 2 spots that will throw 1Ks, 5K, and so forth here in the West Side. So it's slowly happening. I think our scene here is more there's a lot of, like you said, but the shops do care. The shops do care about getting at least 10 to 20 people twice a week, and that's every shop.
Yeah.
So so it's a little bit different. I think it's going to be shifting towards that way though, in the future, because we do have a very big competitive set of people here. There's a couple teams out here, right? We have the Quest Kids, we got Goons is out here, and we have the people who do the Lorcana cookout. So there's a lot of Lorcana people in this area. So I think it will get there though, Dan.
That's good. I mean, especially in a world where we don't know when the next DLC is.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
So there's obviously stuff like that where you kind of need something to do in the in-between. And it's fun because in March, there's a couple events coming up that are pretty well sponsored. CCS and World Class Cards each doing their own thing. You guys had the Battle of the Bay, right? That was in November.
That was in Northern California. Yeah.
Okay.
So it was 5 hours up from me.
Okay. All right. Not right there, but close enough.
Not right there, but a 1 hour flight.
Okay.
There was a lot of people there, and I think what's it
Yeah, it was
called?
like 140
Edmund.
players. It was
Yeah.
pretty big. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty big, and Edmund won that one.
Yep.
I believe,
Yep.
with
Yep.
the-
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
So that was a good one. No, there's a lot of great players in NorCal also, and yeah, no, I think California is a good scene for it, and we were right there where Nats was, so it was like kind of like in our backyard. So I think it's definitely a growing scene, and hopefully it gets bigger.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much time we have for you this morning, but let's open up a chat and we can have this conversation about what is the best non-Sapphire deck, right? You said you're not the biggest competitive guy, right? So is there something that you're kind of, a little attracted to right now that might not have the blue ink color in it?
Yeah. So there's actually two of them.
Okay.
One is, I think, Amethyst Steel is up there for me. I think you could quest quickly, and then also I haven't seen anyone really put it in there, but one thing that we're playing around with is a lot of item removal. So like Platinum, Benja, you got Simba, right? There's a lot of different things you could do to remove items.
Yeah.
And then you could like gain lore quickly, right? Like Goat.
Yeah.
There's even that 2-drop that came out that like when you play it, you get a lore when something's exerted.
The song, This Is My Family.
No, is it like a kid? It's a little.
Honey Marin.
Yeah. So you have that, and then you also have Snake. Everyone's looking for that Snake because you discard a card, you get 2 lore right off the bat. So
seems okay.
Yeah. So I would say that, and then like I know people are testing out the whole red steel too, right? Like that's another one. But how about yourself? What do you?
I got to give a shout out here. It's Judge Phil. That's so funny.
Oh man, is it Judge Phil? Oh man. Oh, Dick Burns. That's good.
Oh, shout out to Judge Phil.
I thought Judge Phil was in the chat right now. I was about to say, how could that be? But,
that's so good. That is actually so funny. Leave it up to Dick for that one. That's good.
Yeah, that was a good one, Dick. That was a good
huge shout out to Judge Phil. He's a great guy. We talked to him
he is
now with the ICL, so a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Ironically, this came up for I have a good theory. The answer is not red steel. Last night we had a community Discord night where we had 8 players playing this little webcam tournament over Pixelborn Connect, and Vince came up and he's like, all right, you know what, guys, like, this is going to be a 3-0 or an 0-3. And I jokingly said, oh, I'm going to cheer for the 0-3 then. And he did go 0-3 with Ruby Steel. So
yeah,
he's a believer.
Yeah, I feel like that one's an interesting deck. I think Lord Gaines like made a deck profile on that. I don't know. I just feel like everything is Sapphire though. Like everything, like you said, Sapphire's even Sapphire Green, right? Like Emerald. It's like everything's Sapphire. Anything that touches Sapphire is good. How about you, Dan? What do you think is the choice?
For non-Sapphire, I think like this weekend, if I was playing in like a 1K or something like that after the items came out, I'd probably lean on Amber Steel Aggro.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah,
I think Amber Steel Aggro is a little bit better positioned than Amethyst Steel is, because you have a couple more 4 willpower characters that you can kind of use in your arsenal. I still think Amethyst Steel is very well positioned, but I 100% believe we're playing for Dan is the Lorcana kid. Nice. I think we're playing for Library. I think Library is very important in a lot of matchups, and I keep seeing people cutting that card, and I don't understand it. Even last night, I jokingly, one of my students, Bucky, we call him Bucky, but his name is Vamos. He won the tournament last night. And last weekend, he showed up to the event. He's like, all right, cut libraries for Strength of Raging Fires. And I looked at him, I was like, I don't think that that's correct, but, like, whatever. And he had, like, a bad night. He didn't do well. Like, he didn't do well at all in the event. And then last night, he goes and 3-0s the 8-man tournament. And I was just like, I literally got to watch his games because I was, like, streaming it to the Discord. And I was, like, following it. And as soon as he came into the room the other night, I was like, so Library's real good, guys, right? Right? And he goes, yeah, library's real good.
Yeah. I always felt like that card, like I was playing the Ruby decks. No, not Ruby decks, the Sapphire decks. And whenever someone would pop out a library, you're just like, oh, man.
8 willpower's a lot, bro.
Yeah, it is. It takes a while. And then, like, sometimes you're not even playing characters. You're just playing a bunch of items, and they're not going to.
Yeah, it's funny because we'll talk about it. I'll talk about it in a little bit, but the DKP list has 2 hideaways in it. And it's just like, it's probably because the library is a bitch for that deck to deal with.
Yeah. I actually built a deck that was kind of like the DK list, and I had like 2 hideaways just to play the mirror.
Right.
And it helped out. So yeah, but the libraries are annoying. Not as much as McDuck Manor, but still annoying.
McDuck Manor is big. McDuck Manor is 9 willpower is a lot.
I did see a list floating around, and like I know my buddy Andy, who always loves to play green red. I saw a list floating around that was Ruby Emerald, and it got some like pickup. Some people
was it focused around the new queen?
Yeah, focused around the new queen. Yeah, so I was like, it's very situational, but I did see it floating around.
One of these weeks at League, I'm definitely going to build my Queen of Hearts deck. I like that card too much.
Yeah.
It's funny because I went for a very long time not playing in leagues. I just like the Philadelphia scene for it sucks. Or like there's 3 of them that are like in the city, and they start at 6 o'clock, and I'm like, I got to leave my house at 4:30 to try and make it by then because traffic is awful during rush hour. So it never works. But I finally found this one that's like literally 16 minutes from my house outside on like Greater Philadelphia. And I've been going on Monday nights. I've been having a blast. It's been so much fun.
Sweet.
So, it is nice. It is nice. Well, sir, how much longer do I have you for?
Like 10, 20 minutes or
10,
so.
20 minutes. All right. All right. We're gonna get into it then. Okay. We're gonna
sure.
bring this down. We're gonna be talking about the legendary cross-continental clash. Man, if that is not a tongue twister, I don't know what is. So for those of you that are unaware of what this is, it is basically 16 players in this. If you were paying attention to the EU versus NA stuff back in November before before Continentals, the Continental Championships, the Nationals or National Continental Champion. I don't know how I'm saying EU Continentals and North American Continentals. They were able to kind of get some of the best players known from EU and NA, and they had this nice little like clash. Zach Bibbins won the whole tournament. Beautiful playman at the end. Well, Pavel said, hey, we're not doing anything right now. We don't know when Worlds is, so let me go out and get some of the best players in Disney Lorcana, some of the world's qualified players in Disney Lorcana, put them in a room and see what can happen. So this is what the 16 registered decks were for this particular tournament. As we can see here, it is dominated by Sapphire. There are 11 Sapphire decks out of the 16. So that's kind of why I wanted the conversation of, hey, like, what is the best non-Sapphire deck? Because if I'm being honest, guys, it looks like the best players in the world are telling you that Sapphire is the best choice. What do you think about this breakdown here, Mr. Lorcana Man?
Yeah, I think it's the cards. The cards are, like, as you said, it's very biased to Sapphire, and even though that bar, right, the Sapphire Steel bar is actually like, you know how you separated the two?
Yeah.
If you think about it, right, if you stack them up against each other, it's like, and everything else is just one, like, which I think is like crazy.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, and yeah, I just feel like it's definitely biased towards that Sapphire. I think the new cards also, they're new cards and they're fun to play, right? Like the Bell and the Tamatoa. So
yeah, I mean, who doesn't like broken cards? I mean, I love them.
but
I love broken
I mean,
cards.
like, it's kind of like before you even showed that, I that's what I thought. I just didn't think it was like that crazy. Like, I thought like at least one more Ruby M. There's always like 2 Ruby M.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about this in the video on Monday. We had a 51 player tournament. Nobody registered Ruby Amethyst.
That's
zero.
Crazy.
Literal 0. I mean,
I always think that it's funny. People always count Ruby M out, and then it won both of the Continentals.
Yeah, I mean,
you know, right?
Good players are good. Number one.
Yeah.
And Ed, obviously, one of the best. And a lot of that comes down to the bracket you're in.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm certain that when Ed saw his bracket, he probably felt pretty good about it, and it clearly paid off for him. So yeah, it is funny that they, like, to me, Ruby Amethyst for a very long time has just been like the super ultra fair deck that has the occasional get out of jail free card with Be Prepared. And you know what? When you're better than your opponent, sometimes that's all you need. You know, you only need one get out of jail free card. So I think that's very interesting. But we've gone basically 2 sets now. Now I will say the Ruby Amethyst deck in this is like, I actually don't even know what all the cards do in it. So like when I bring that list up, I have to bring Druidenborn up and look at the cards because I literally don't even know what they all do. Because there's some interesting ones in there. But yeah, it's very interesting to see like this to this scale. Sapphire is just so dominant. And it is not shocking. You know, the best cards in the set are Sapphire cards, right? Like it's just without question at this point. Even the lone Ink Geyser deck is still a Sapphire card that's like being highlighted for the most part, you know?
I do think it's interesting that it flipped though, because it was like before this, it was all about like Sapphire Ruby, and now it's Sapphire Steel, right? So Sapphire Steel is like making its.
Yeah, I mean, 4 more popsicles in your deck, bro.
Yeah, I know, right?
Like it's, you know, 8 popsicles are better than 4. It's just that simple.
Yeah, and 8 popsicles plus a bell is with great. The song with like you got Storm right after.
Yeah,
pretty good.
It's not bad. It's not bad. So I kind of messed up a little bit here, guys. So I'm going to take this away for a second and then put it back up because there is a whole bracket. I don't know why I put it so far into the slides, but we'll put it here. We go. So it already started. We've already had a couple victories here. Mr. Bivens won, Specky won, and Lorcana Decklist picked up a win as well. There is like a whole schedule for this. I wish I had it on hand, but there's like a whole link. It's really cool. On Inkdex, there's like a whole feature of this. And with this link, you go in, you can actually see when all the streams are, what they're linked to, what the website is, at least for like as much has been done already. It's very, very cool. I'm not even, it might just be spotlighted on Inkdex. I can open it up real quick and kind of confirm this, but it was really nice. I was very impressed with the amount of effort going into this. Pavel, I mean, obviously, guys, anyone that knows Pavel knows that he puts like 110% into anything. So there's that. I don't see it featured here, so maybe it's not on the homepage, but hopefully we can find it.
So Dan, do we know what decks these guys are playing right here? Like the ones that like moved on. So Zach played Diego. Diego was he still doing the
so Diego was, here we go. So Zach was on his Amber Steel Bianca list. And then Diego was on this Lady in the Tramp aggro deck, which I'm very interested to be talking about.
Yeah, and he took out because like he was wasn't he using the Under the Sea before?
Yeah, so Diego, for anyone that doesn't know, he won DLC Toronto.
Yeah,
playing the Under the Sea like Diablo control deck basically. And this is obviously, I believe. Oh man, I can't remember. I feel like he also played. No, he played Mufasa. So he played the Amethyst Amber Mufasa deck in NACC, if I remember correctly. But yeah, here's like a very different version in general, like utilizing this type of list with Clarabelle and Lady and Tramp, right? Like I think Tramp is the card that everyone read Lady and said, "Oh yeah, Lady is really good. It's really powerful. It's gonna like get my cards back to be instant. It's gonna be really insane." I don't think anyone really looked at Tramp and understood what the card did. And I'm not even certain that people looking at these deck lists understand how good Tramp is.
Right.
The opening lines of 3 1-drops into like Tramp into a Chernobog is pretty insane. So, and like there's really unique cards too. Like this Prince. Prince is just an 0-5 on turn 2. Like it just like, how do you get rid of this card? Like,
yeah, right.
Like Fox be damned. So yeah, I think this is really interesting. It did get, I wish the tournament bracket doesn't show the game count. Unfortunately, I don't know why. Hold on, I can pick on match details here. I'm curious if it was 2-0. 2-0, 2-0, 2-0, 2-0, 2-0. Hey Specky, how you doing, Bo? This website, this challenge website, it's been annoying. I was using it last night for our little webcam event and it was not loading and now it's not loading again. That's frustrating. Too much overload. I can't tell what the match count was. I wish I could. I know. Yeah. For some reason, so they have this voting poll on it. It was 2-0. See, look, shout out to Melissa. What would I do without Melissa, guys? I don't know what I would do without her. So there's like a voting thing that you can go on and anyone that was on the page can go on and vote. For some reason, that's all I see on the matches. So rather than it saying like if it was 2-0, 2-1, yada, 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 I just see it was 87-13 for Zach Bivens. It's not helpful. But yeah, so Bivens list here, pretty interesting. Miss Bianca. This is a card, and this is why when we're talking about, best players in the game, making decks. If you go and outside of Bianca with Tipo, which is pretty much the most conversation I heard around her, this is a card that really did not get much hype, didn't get a lot of conversation, and I sure as hell didn't hear anyone talk about putting it in Amber Steel decks. But here we are with Zach Bivens, and I'll give a shout out to Wochuk as well. Just putting Bianca in their deck, and everyone's like, man, what's this dude? Like, what is this chick doing in here? You're like, oh, well, it's a 4-cost 5/5 that's inkable that sings all your songs. Okay.
It's definitely a great card in sealed, and I'm glad to see it getting some play here. A lot of people.
Oh, yeah. I had 2 of these in sealed on Monday night, and I 3-0'd my sealed pull, and that's why, for sure.
Yeah. So that's interesting that, this is an interesting list that Bivens is running, but yeah, with Steel on his side and versus the Amber Emerald, I just looking at this deck, I could have said like this one was slightly favored. I don't think
in that matchup, I think it's pretty fair to say that. I agree.
Yeah,
100%.
And then the other one that we got results on was the Specky one. You said,
yeah. So Specky. So that's where are we at? Yeah. So yeah, we had Sailor.
Yeah,
on Ruby Sapphire, and then we had Specky on Amethyst Steel super budget. This deck comes in at like $48 or something like that. It's like, we don't need docs. Save your money. We're just gonna Amethyst Chromacon everyone to death.
Yeah, I actually was playing this one. I like it. I think you can go right underneath like those Sapphire players and quest out quickly.
Oh, interesting, Specky. That means the list that's in the Google Drive is wrong then. Oh, okay. I see what happened. This is My Family's a good card though. It's a good one. So yeah, this deck is just the epitome of like turn card sideways, make my opponent answer it and deal with it. I do also just love the attributive like 4 Benja, 4 Pete in our bounce, repeat Benja deck. So, this is a card again, like Gathering Knowledge and Wisdom, Cobra, right? Like these are just 2 cards that read Game 2 lore. From my early testings with the budget list that we had, I found myself only needing to get to about 12 lore to pretty much say that I can win the game, like kind of from out of nowhere. I imagine it's pretty similar to this list as well. Like Chromacon is just going to enable you to just continuously draw cards. You have goats, you have roses, you have cobras. We got the Gathering Knowledge, Wisdom, and Honey Marin. We were talking about the Honey Marin earlier.
Yep.
So much, like there's so many ways to gain lore outside of actually having the quest. So to me, in this matchup, it didn't feel too shocking that Spessy was able to pick up the win.
Yeah.
We had like the traditional Ruby Sapphire, Cecil on Ice. It's just a little slow. It has to kind of hit these cards early. We only had 2 baby Sisus. So if we can't find one of those a little early, we can't find one of the brawls early, we probably fall very, very far behind in the match. And again, it's probably very reliant on finishing or like at least catching the game up with Pirate's Life, right?
Yeah.
And 4 Petes and 8 cards that read pick my Pete up and play it again. It's a good way to beat this deck.
Yeah, and I feel like there's less B preps here and there's more Sisus, right? And then the Sisu is kind of just like a dead card when you're playing Amethyst Steel sometimes, because you have at that point, right, you'll have like goats and crabs and things like that. You really have to utilize that coil, and when you use the coil, maybe you can only hit 1, right?
Right.
So I think that makes it tough. That's the thing with Amethyst too, that we were talking about that deck before. It's kind of like you also gain a benefit if someone banishes some of your characters, right? Like if they banish Diablo, goat, or even a rabbit, you get some kind of net benefit from it.
Yeah, I mean, like even in this particular list, basically all these cards, except for Smee and Maleficent, like they come into play and they do something else.
Yeah.
So you're always going to get some type of benefit, like impact benefit. We talk about that a lot. Why some cards don't feel good enough. Like obviously, especially is going for the burn budget version here.
Yes.
But we've seen lists that have the new queen in it, and like it's a conversation that people keep kind of having. And for me, it's like, well, if you're going to pay 4 and you're going to put a character into play, And if it doesn't do anything, you might have just lost the game because you played a character that doesn't do anything.
Yeah, it could just get wiped out in a second. So
yeah. Aside from that, it's interesting. We see this list is only the 9 items here, but still now we're playing 4 Sharks, 2 Tamatoas, 8 Sisu. I really feel like these decks they're just trying to be everything bagels.
Yeah,
and they're trying to like we know all these cards are good, right? Like there's no debate here that these cards are good or bad. It's just a matter of like how many do we actually need, and should we be leaning towards a specific direction?
Yeah, one thing I discussed with a buddy of mine recently was like we're talking about how like the discard itself is becoming a resource, like an inventory.
Sure.
So as like you play certain cards and you pop items, the Tamatoa brings it back. If you pop actions, now the Maui Shark brings it back. And I think that's like very important in the game. And that's why some cards effects, like the Queen one, right? We were just talking about, it doesn't go to your discard. It goes from your discard into your deck.
Bottom,
I think we're seeing that like discard being a resource in the game. And people, like you said, it's everything bagel, right? It's like, what do you want to get? You want to get items or do you want to get actions? And it's like, this one seemed like it was getting a lot. Which is an interesting breakdown.
Yeah, I mean, look, obviously it's very early on in set 7.
Exactly,
a lot to be explored.
Exactly,
and specifically in a world where we're playing against these players with world invites, these guys that we're going to have to sit across from in a few months in a tournament to crown the first Disney Lorcana world champion. I don't think it's wrong to experiment. I don't
either. I think it's great. I think like as a fine tune it. Like we're just getting started, right? Everything's getting fine-tuned. Everything now, I think people are building decks to play against the item deck, right? Like, so it's like, and then the people will play a deck to counter the ones that are countering that. So it's going to be a lot of back and forth. I think set champs is when we're going to start seeing more of a.
Talk about set champs. We are 7 weeks away from set champs. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Feels like an eternity.
I know, right? I think like that's, and we don't know when Worlds is, but I feel like it's still very early, and you're right. Everyone, I think, is playing now, and that's why I think we're going to see a lot more of those decks where they're trying to do as many things as they can, especially with new cards. I think there's always there's a desire to use the new stuff, right? So
I agree. Yeah, I mean, it's especially early on. Probably in a world where crabs don't cost $80 a pop, but
right.
It can happen. Our last match here is Mr. Kurt Spies. It's the Baltimore Ravens. Kurt lives not too far from me. He's always a good conversation when we have them. He decided to bring Emerald Steel. I'm a huge fan of this Pete. All right, I think this Pete's a menace. How about you? Have you sat across from this thing yet?
No, I haven't sat across from it, but I know a lot of my friends that play Emerald Steel. Everyone's putting it in the deck. Everyone's putting it in. But I really like that, and I think it's interesting. He does have the Platinum in there. He has 2 of them in there, so that's really awesome. So this is a very.
It's kind of funny. My first initial thought about the Find My Platinum, right, was the concept of, man, this is the freest card to discard with Diablo ever.
Yeah,
like,
true.
Like, I don't need this right now. See you later.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting now. Kurt is a member of World Class Cards, which also shares a team membership with Mr. Zan Syed. So I'm pretty confident that Kurt knows, like, oh yeah, Zan's been cooking these items over here. I better respect the items a little bit. So right. I think I can see it. I'm of the world that the card's actually not good enough. Specifically in a world with Tamatoa, like,
you just bring it back, right?
It's very interesting too. Like, this deck is not a deck that can turn and win quickly. I think like some of the aggro decks might be able to play this card because it might like just take them off a long enough turn to where they can't like win the game before you. But I think for a deck like this, that it's so very slow, it's so very grindy. Even if you pay 4 and you're able to like nuke their item board, you really can't pressure the game fast enough for them to recover. And one Tamatoa like just changes everything, you know? So
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
why I'm not sure if it's actually good enough for like this particular list.
Yeah. I just think it's interesting that people are doing it. I think when you're playing against an item player and you see so many items and you can't impact their board at all,
Yeah.
you kind of feel helpless, right?
Yeah.
I think this kind of helps with that. But you're right, like both Tamatoas bring back items,
Yeah.
whether from your, so
Yeah.
they can quickly rebuild.
It's just, to me, it's that simple, right? You're just like, you specifically in a world where we can't sing the card.
Yeah.
If we have to pay 4, like that's
No, I think that one you have to pay. Isn't it?
I'm pretty sure it's 4 if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it's 4, but I think you could sing it though, right?
No, yeah, I'm saying in a world where we can't sing, right?
Oh, yeah,
Like if like we just don't have the character in play to do it.
Yeah.
I feel like paying 4 to take a turn off when they put a bunch of stuff into play for free, it's not the same, guys.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I agree.
It's not the same.
I was talking to a buddy of mine, and he was running something that would just purely item removal. He built a deck just to tech against it.
Yeah.
And a funny card that he put in there, which was interesting, was like he put the Wreck-It Ralph in there.
Yeah, the 8-cost one, the big boy.
Yeah, the ham hands. Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. He was like,
I just $1 million, but it's interesting.
Yeah, he was like, it's just item destruction. He just lost really bad to an item guy. He was like, I'm just gonna make anti-item decks.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and then it's like, I'll get crushed by this deck this one time. I'll make a deck that beats it, and then I'll just get crushed by every other deck.
Yeah, exactly. He was just like on a vendetta. There's people that make decks like that, but yeah.
So I had to make sure I had this one correctly. This is Theotime's deck. Very interesting. I actually played with Gramatala a couple weeks ago in a Emerald Sapphire deck, and I loved it. It was a lot of fun. This is a very different take, but it's still very interesting. So this is like saying, hey, I don't need Tamatoas, which is crazy to think about, right?
Right.
I'm just gonna like outvalue my opponent and put 1 million ink into play and win through like giant dudes. I think this is cool. I think it's just showcasing that you can build this deck in several different ways. We can make an argument, I think at the end of this, we'll kind of know which version of this deck will end up being better. I tend to lean towards Tamatoas are very likely better than Gramatalas, but it's kind of the same. Like, this card is a 4/8 is not easy to get rid of, right? Like steel decks, how does the steel deck remove this card? I don't even know.
Right. Yeah, like that's a very beefy character, and like having 8 cards out there to sing a Strength of a Raging Fire, that's really difficult to hit, right? Like I do think it's interesting because like he has a couple things that ink stuff. He has the Fishbone Quill and the Greatstone. I've seen builds that had the Gramatala that had Friend Like Me in there.
Yep.
And then like that one with the Frozen family, that one,
All Is Found.
All Is Found, right? Like I saw people build just everything around Gramatala, which I think was very interesting. But yeah, I'm kind of curious how this one does. It's a very and also too, sometimes I feel like people build decks to psych people out. Like there's no crab in here. I mean,
I actually can't remember. I forget. Theotime played something crazy in the last one too. I remember like I tuned in one morning. I'm like, what in the hell is going on? So I think it might just be to his credit that Theotime likes to build the spice, which is fine. That's fine.
That's
right?
Cool. Yeah, no, I like it. I like when there's like a little bit of diversity in the deck building. I feel like sometimes we'll look at a deck and then just like swap out 1 or 2 cards, and that's like the deck. But I thought that was kind of cool. I had a friend who played like blue-red, and he didn't put any Be Prepareds in there, but it was basically like the DK build with no Be Prepareds. Yeah, and he had like Maleficent Dragons instead, and people were like always playing around and Be Prepared. And he just never had it. That was just
so
like
funny. I was saying this last night in Discord. I was like, if I was playing blue right now, 0 B preps. Let everyone think I have them.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a little funny little like.
You play against that. Well, you'll play against me. I'm the guy that never respects Be Prepared. I'm just like, if you have, I'm going to lose the game, so I don't really care. So like, I would play against myself like 3 rounds in a row and be like, God damn it. Well, do you have to get to work this morning, sir?
Yeah, I'm gonna hop off. But thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Is good thanks for having me on. Great, knowing you since this time. And I think the first time we met was actually at PAX. At PAX,
Really?
yeah, we met at PAX
Unplugged
Unplugged. The when they had the
in
flood
2023.
Yeah. When Dave
Wow,
won the whole thing.
Yeah. Dave. Yeah.
You were like the first person I recognized from like the Lorcana community.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
But
cool.
that was
I feel bad. I don't remember this. I vividly remember our conversation in Chicago.
Yeah. No. This was like when it all started. I just said hey to you in line, and
okay.
and then we all watched Dave play against I think his name was Steve. Yeah. At the end, it was like Ruby Ann versus Amber Still, and he put flutes on the map.
Flutes, baby.
Yeah, and it was crazy how small that was. Remember, like 64. No one was recording it. No one.
No, yeah, we couldn't. We weren't allowed to.
Yeah. I did take a picture. I do on my Instagram page. There's a picture of it, and I also have a recording of like after Dave won and he shook his hand.
Yeah,
like, I have that, but like it was weird how small.
Well, no, what was funny? Me and Pave talk about this all the time. They had like Ravensburger had a guy that like recorded stuff. Like there was someone that was recording the whole match.
I know. Yeah, I know.
That footage never came.
Yeah, exactly.
Never existed. We actually made fun about that for a couple weeks afterwards. Like someone took it. It just never happened. It is true. This is Pave right here. It's definitely been all downhill from there. Wins the first official organized play tournament. Hasn't done anything since. Facts.
Yeah, but it was also interesting too. Like there was a game that Steve Warner he played against an NBA player at D23, and there was some camera people there. But the only footage of it is like I took footage of it like live. Mm-hmm. He played a guy named Robin, but I did it live, so it's on my Instagram account. But it's fuzzy because it's like post live. But that would have been a great match for people to watch too, right?
Yeah, like, weird. It's so weird how strict Disney is. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. So
plenty of untapped content there that people would have loved to see.
Right. So all right. Well, take care, Dan. Appreciate it. And keep in touch, man. I'll see you at the next event, whenever that is.
Yeah, whenever, man.
All right, dude. Take care, man.
Later, bro.
Peace.
Thank you to Mr. Lorcana Man for coming and hanging out with me this morning. That was fun. Hope you guys enjoy him. He is a riot on Instagram. There's definitely times where I show up to his random live streams and he's just enjoying life as a collector, which is nice. It's always nice to meet these like that. The layers of Disney Lorcana is phenomenal to me. The idea that you can go on Instagram and you can find any imaginable sort of content creator for the game for all sorts of different reasons is awesome. It's not as easy to see those things on YouTube play out, just the way the YouTube algorithm works out and like the differences of people kind of looking for things on YouTube. But Instagram seems like a very thriving place for any of that type of content. Some really great content creators out there for that. So gotta love to see it. Always fun to have some company. That's kind of the whole point about these morning streams. I'm really hoping I can just like go on, have fun, chat with people, and if anything, at the very least, introduce you guys to them. So, maybe you find someone new to enjoy. I'm getting yelled at. Let me guess. Why am I getting yelled at? Oh, okay. I'm not getting yelled at. It's fine. It's just Melissa being Melissa. Did Bibbins look? Is there a YouTube place for the LCC matches? Yeah. So, like where is the post production of it? They're kind of everywhere, I think. I imagine it's wherever it was streamed, which I can probably figure out in a minute, but it's kind of hard to find. But yeah, they're definitely out there. I'm pretty sure every match is being streamed by someone that is very easy to find on YouTube. If not, it's on a Twitch somewhere. But if I don't have it now, like I can't like go and find it, but I'll definitely. Yeah, so Wonderland's doing a bunch of them. Earl's doing some. I think Lorcana Villain's doing some. We're doing some. So we're gonna be out there. I'm sure Spessy just put out a video for his I think post-production. Oh yeah, JDZ also. So there you go. So JDZ Quest over on Twitch. So it looks like it has Bivens. Again, what would I do? Even though AJ did beat her. What would I do with that, Melissa, guys? Heart and soul. Not the heart and soul. I don't say that. My wife heard me say that. She'd be really mad. But yeah, so definitely even today, I think there's 3 games today, if I remember correctly. If I go and look at this real quick. Dun, 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 dun. We actually have like a whole section of it in our Discord now. So 2 p.m. is the Rat versus Moyen. 4 p.m. is Kurt versus Theo time. And then 6 p.m. is Ed versus Artifacts. Of course, that's all Eastern Standard Time. Bessie has 2 p.m., Earl has 4 p.m., and JDZ Quest is 6 p.m. So 2-hour stints everywhere. Lots of place to go. Yeah, she never listens to me, exactly. But yeah, so I think it's some good games, right? So what was our first game today? Was it the Moyen versus Rat? So I think we're here with this. Nope, that's Zan. There we are. So so Moyen and Rat, or Brian. Brian was the DLC winter for Chicago. He picked up the win with Bucky Discard in Chicago. And then, of course, we all know who Moyen is. A pseudo mirror match, which is nice. You have pretty close to the same list. Cogsworth is the big standout here. And just a little bit more item, it seems. I think Cogsworth has been an interesting conversation. There's been I can put this up here. This is nice. There's a lot of talk about how to combat in the mirror. And there's been some conversation around like Cogsworth as being maybe a potential answer to that. I think it's really difficult to say that a 5 cost is the pseudo answer to this. Again, like this deck, all it's doing is putting cards into play for free from every aspect of it, right? Like the Oswald puts stuff into play for free. Bell, we play for free. Scrooge can be played for free. The Tamatoa gets cards back and plays cards for free. And then our songs are played for free. Like there's so many things that are going on for free that like if you have to pay 5 to just put a conditional card into play, it better win you the game. And I don't know that I believe that it like does win you the game. And I think that that's kind of where I'm at. So I'm of the assumption that putting that card in your deck might actually make your deck worse, because it does lose a layer of consistency just by playing Cogsworth. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out. Again, these are 2 great players that get to square off on camera for basically the world to go and watch. So it's definitely one that I'm excited to see, because I think that it might start to answer some of those questions. A lot of the mirror matches that we've seen for this deck so far were basically the same 60 cards, and we haven't seen the evolution of what will happen like once we have more information about this deck and it being so hyped about and so much better. Like just so much more scope of an eye is now on this. So now we have to like see like how is it going to affect, what changes are going to be made if you show up in day 1, right? Like if you show up day 1 and you had this list, you had an edge. People didn't know what it was. They didn't know how to play against you. They didn't understand what your powerhouse cards were. So now people can make an educated choice moving forward. But now it's also the same. You didn't expect day 1 to sit down and play anyone else playing this deck. Now we can expect that this weekend we'll probably have multiple of these in every single tournament that we report on. So when you sit down for the mirror match, you have to probably have an edge in it. We shall see. We shall see. All in all, should be a good match though. I think it's nice. Again, so much Sapphire Steel early, right? It's kind of crazy. And then what do we have? We have Theo time and Kurt. We talked about this a second ago, but so Kurt, I think this is a good matchup in general. I think that Emerald Steel has a good chance to be the disruptor in the Sapphire Steel matchup. So this will be a kind of a good showcasing. I think if you're looking for a deck that's not Sapphire Steel and you want to try and compete with it, I do believe that some version of Emerald Steel is in good position to do that. The worry here is that it might still be a die roll thing, going second into a turn 1 Bell when they honestly have a better chance of hitting Bell than you actually have of your chance of hitting Diablo is a bit scary. So, if they establish an early 3-3, it could be a little bit difficult. You have to play around it. Hidden Cove also not as spectacular in the matchup because like 2 taps with Bell and it's gone, so like it just doesn't do anything. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see how this one goes. I do think it's interesting. I think the deck is pretty good, but it's hard to be sure. And then of course Theo Time with this a little bit different version of this. I feel like the slower version of this and like the less no Lucky Dime, no big crabs, no 6-cost trap, like no crabs at all is very interesting. And I do worry that this deck is just too slow and it's not going to be able to win the game quick enough to like actually keep up with all the discard and everything that Emerald Seal has to offer. So my guess is that Emerald Seal is going to be favored in this particular matchup with this particular list. But, that's the fun of it. That's what we get to see and watch. So, yeah. And then what's our last matchup here? Ed and Artifacts. I like it. Ed's playing a pretty interesting red-blue list. I think this is Ed's. Is this Ed's here? No, this is DKP. So Ed, yeah. So Ed has just like 4 scars in his deck. And that's it, right? Like we're the DKP deck, but we found a way to put 4 scars in. That's interesting. It's obviously very anti-aggressive, but I don't really know. Like I don't know exactly what It's too like obviously in this matchup with the version here of is just more aggro and not more items. I feel like Ed's probably going to be okay. Like the 4 scars is clearly a very well positioned card into these like aggro Kiwi list. So I think that that's going to kind of play into a nice role. But I do fear that on average, this card's not going to be good enough. I mean, I just think it's one of those where depending on what the metagame is, in response here, like depending on what the metagame is, yes, Scar can be good. If the entire metagame is going to like turn into, I need to play an aggro deck, I need to play 1/4s, I need to play 0/4s, then Scar is going to be pretty phenomenal. But if the item list is what's going to be the most dominant played deck, if that's what you expect to see more of, or it's like specifically in the winners bracket, then I think all this deck is doing is playing for top 8. And it's kind of just hoping for to dodge the matchups that it's not favorable against. I can't fathom that this list is good at all into the item version of the deck. In my humble opinion, I think you're just going to be like, you have no hideaway, no Cusco, no way to interact with items or locations in any manner. I have a feeling that this one might be good in the round 1 against the Kiwi aggro, but I feel like it's going to fall off a little bit. Speaking of Artifacts' list, though, nothing too crazy, right? I think this is pretty straightforward. I think it's a good-looking list for this. If you're into the aggro style, I think it's great. I think it's going to do everything you wanted to do. I'll be honest, I can't remember if Tala is a normal card for these lists. It feels a bit odd, a bit slow, but from my experience, the deck really does have some difficulty like keeping up with cards. So playing a 4-cost 3/3 that just gets me a card back and helps me like sift through the next best option, maybe it's fine. If it's just always singing Zeus to kind of clear the way, it's probably okay for that too. But it does feel a bit slow. The lack of Doc is kind of crazy to me. I think Doc is one of the best reasons to play this list. So in any world where we're not playing Doc and we don't have a whole new world, we're very much relying on, our Popsicles, our Tela, and Tamatoa. I guess like we have Hiram, so like we can hopefully get there. But it feels like we're playing a much more low resource game. And I think because of that, it scares me a little bit. I don't know. We'll see. I think I haven't looked. I know he finished second. I'm not sure if this list is different than the list he had finished second this past weekend with. But yeah, Talos is interesting. It's interesting. What else do we got? So that's all the matches today, right? So we covered the ones today, which is cool. All right, we'll take a quick moment here. How's everyone doing, right? If you're new and you're just coming in, my question of the day was, what is the best non-Sapphire deck? I'm hearing rumblings of a couple different options, but I'm curious, we were just talking about, to start it, like this tournament, the last couple tournaments from over the weekend, Sapphire was incredibly dominant, right? Like this was it. This is what it was all about. And you can see here, even in this tournament, 11 of 16 players are playing Sapphire. So 11 of the best players in the world have opted to decide that Sapphire is the best deck to play in a tournament to this structure. Now, granted, they get to change their decks every round. They get to make some choices. And they can kind of like play through what's going on. There are other decks than Sapphire. Yeah, there's at least 5 of them here. So that's what I really want to know. Like, what are we leaning towards? Like, if we didn't, if we hurt ourselves and we didn't go and buy Tamatoas this past weekend, and we didn't buy Scrooges, and we don't feel like spending $1 bazillion to play Sapphire, what are we playing? Where are you guys at? I think Amethyst Steel is there. I think Amber Steel aggro is a good choice. I think that this Amber Emerald deck, this little Lady in the Tramp action, I think it's picking up some traction. It might be okay. Who knows? Zach Bivens and Wochuk think that Amber Steel Song still has a shot with Bianca. So I'm curious. What's it going to be? That's where we're at, right? That's where we're at. All right. So our other matches. If I go back to it real quick, I should have just made this slide deck based on matches. That'd have been smart. I also have to. It's so hard to remember them all. All right. So we got Bivens, we got Kurt, we got Spice. So we have Mo. All right. So Mo. Let's go. Let's check out Mo because I love. Here we are, right? So Federico, I hope I'm saying his name correctly. I'm going to get that right before tomorrow because we're streaming. We're streaming this matchup tomorrow, guys. So the matchup that we're about to talk about, this is the matchup that I will be commentating on tomorrow with Wonderland. I'm very excited to be a part of LCC again and have the right to come on and chat about these wonderful games, wonderful play. So I'm very excited. I didn't talk about this because we had Lorcana Man earlier, but I think the most exciting thing for me to be a part of it a little bit more this time is that I don't really know the European players that much. Obviously it's harder to follow along with them because it's just a different kind of world. Even doing the meta reports and things like that and like doing the research, it's just the name sometimes. It's not people I talk to. Where all the Americans that are on this list, I probably have had a conversation with all of them. I've met them. I've played it. I've at least talked the game with them. Where Europeans much different. I don't. There's not really an opportunity to see these guys yet. We haven't had Worlds. I didn't go to any foreign DLCs. So it's nice to be a part of it this way, kind of like learn a little bit more about what they're about, see their game style. So I'm very excited to kind of just participate in that manner and like just educate myself a little bit more on what these wonderful EU players have to offer. So, coming in right to start, we have Ruby Sapphire. Again, it's starting, over and over again, right, to look like everything bagels. We saw DKP dominate 2 tournaments in a row with a deck that was just focused around Maui Sharks, and we didn't play the Sisus. We just didn't play any of that stuff. And now it just looks like everyone said, okay, like we know that DKP things work. We know that Sisu on Ice works. If we just mash them together, it's just going to work. And I just don't know that it's true, I think it's nice to have the options. I think it's nice to have the card selection. But I feel like we need to commit one way or another. Like these 2 Tamatoas, they just feel like so off. It's a great card. Like there's no debate whether or not the Tamatoa is a phenomenal card. And I guess the argument becomes like, okay, well, what could I play that is not Tamatoa? Like what's going to make a difference? How can I make my deck better? And, sometimes if we just play Tamatoa and we get back 2 Popsicles or we get back a Popsicle and a Vitalosphere, maybe it's good enough. But I do think the clear power of the card is when it quests, you get to play things for free. And playing a 1 cost for free, I mean, it's nice, but it's not nearly the same as playing a 7 cost for free. But it's also very possible, and we're living in a world where this deck is just tuned for a more aggressive gameplay. I think that one of the key things I learned this week, and I talk about this time, I talk about this as often as possible, like learning is very important, and there are a lot of really great players in this game. There are a lot of great content creators in this game. And I sat yesterday morning and I listened to the Zan podcast, and he talked about the Oswald core. And what he said was it's the best core, right? And if we compare the Sapphire core now that we have now in week 1 of set 7, and we go back to like set 2 and even set 3 of Amethyst, and we say, listen, the Amethyst core was Madame Mims and Merlins. Like that's what it was. If you were playing an Amethyst deck that was not playing Madame Mims and Merlins, you were just playing an inferior deck. It's just a fact. This is also why I always felt like the Emerald Amethyst decks that did not play Snake, like they were just playing a worse deck than on average than every other deck in the game that was an Amethyst deck, because they weren't playing the best cards that you can play in the core. And it was a choice of deck construction. And even if it made that deck and the version of that deck better, it still probably meant that it was inferior to another option that was in Amethyst. So when you consider that for Sapphire, and what Zan is saying is that the blue Oswald item core is the best Sapphire core, period. So therefore, if you're going to be playing a Sapphire deck, you should be building it around this Sapphire core. So every time that we get away from that, and every time that we look at these decks that look like this, we're saying we're not doing that. And basically what Zan is saying is that if you're not doing that, your deck is inferior. And it's kind of hard to debate it. And the key factor of that is what is this deck doing that's free and like insanely powerful? And the answer is nothing. This deck is just doing a value deck. It's playing a character per turn for the first 7 or 8 turns of the game on average. And then later on, maybe we get to a level of where we get to play a shark, sing a pirate's life, maybe get it back, and you get to do like a little bit crazier turns as the game goes on. But that's like turns 8 and 9 and 10, and maybe therefore after, where in Sapphire Steel, we're talking about like turn 1, you might play an item and a character. And then on turn 2, you might sing a song and play a character. And then on turn 3, you might sing a song, play an ink, get an item for free, and like every turn is do 2 or 3 things. Like that's what Oswald allows you to do. And there's been a lot of talk about like if Oswald is not good enough, which is actually insane. There's a lot. It's like, oh well, when you miss with Oswald, it feels bad. Yeah, but when you hit with Oswald, it feels like you broke the game. That's just like the epitome of risk reward. And I don't even know if you can make an argument to say that it's high risk. I don't even think Oswald is high risk. I just think it's like, yeah, it's a risk, but the reward certainly outweighs the risk. So all these people that are just saying like, oh, it's not good enough, it's a joke, it's fake. Like, I just think you're wrong. Like, I fundamentally disagree with you. So that's kind of what's interesting to me about it, is that like you have these decks like this, and I think that in a fair game against fair decks, this deck is phenomenal. I think that it's very well positioned to do incredible things into a very fair looking meta game. But when we start talking about what Sapphire Steel is doing and the items deck is doing, it's just fundamentally more than everything else we're looking at. So we'll have to see how it plays out. Let's talk about this list though, because this list is awesome. Shout out to Mo. This is a deck that I think we've been talking about a bunch. It's a deck that I've been very excited to play. I've now played 4 versions of this deck. This one's pretty similar to what I've been doing. I will say that the 4 cards for sure or 2 cards that I'm not playing in my list are the Pete, which is the 1-cost inkable 1/2 with 1 lore, and then it's whenever you play a non-song action, you can break an item. Very interesting choice when we already have 4 Clarabelles. I don't know how I feel about this card. I definitely wasn't thinking about it. I don't know that I would have put it in my deck until I seen that someone else did. So now I can be like, okay, maybe there's a reason for this. And, we have a pretty nice amount. Like I don't have Develop My Brain in your list either, but I understand why you would play that card. But in this, we have what? We have Develop, we have See, we have Vision, and we have Ink Geyser. So that is 15 non-song actions. So maybe we can get some leverage out of that. I don't know. I'm not really sold on it. I think Clarabelle is enough on average. So because of that, I'm pretty content with just having her. But I could be wrong. It's hard to say. The other card that I definitely don't have is Kit. And while I think Sapphire Coil is a phenomenal card, and I think the Muses is a phenomenal card, and I think they work very, very well together, I actually don't know that Kit does enough on average. So I'm very interested to see how this card will play out for him over the course of the tournament, if he continues to play this version of it, or if we get to see it evolve a little bit. It looks like this is Bleen V8 like the juice. That's kind of funny. I wasn't sure if this was a version 8, or I think reading this, I don't know that that's true either, but I think it's funny. I just think that Kit in these lists, to me, from the past, if we go back to the Emerald Amber deck of the past and what Kit was doing in that deck, it was definitely delaying the inevitable, right? You're oh, I'm just kicking this card back, so I'm making them play it again. So when I can set up my Under the Sea, then I can take over the board and kind of win the game. This deck does not play Under the Sea. So all you're really doing is slightly delaying the inevitable. If we live in a world where we get to, Ink Geyser, and then somehow very quickly put 3 cards back into play, and one of them, and we have a Sapphire Coil in play, and then we just get to ink and Kit them and get a card off the board, maybe. Even if it's a big Ink Geyser turn later in the game, where somehow we're, maybe we're inking and then we're singing How Far I'll Go. We're minusing something big by a couple, by 4. And then we play Kit, bounce something back to their hand, and then we play Ink Geyser, so it takes them off of it. Maybe that's good enough, right? I'm not certain it is, but I understand why the card's in the deck, because I do think in combination with Sapphire Coil, you're doing a very good job of taking threats off the board for a low resource count. But Kit is not Sisu, right? It's not banishing the card. You're not getting rid of it functionally. So for me, that's the one card that I think that it makes sense, but I don't think that it's powerful enough. Specifically in a world where this deck does not win fast either. We're not just going to turn the game sideways, play an Ink Geyser, and then the game is just going to end. It's still going to take us 5-6 turns to win. And that's one of the more fundamental problems of this list. Obviously, for McDuck's Manor, help a little bit. If we can stick a McDuck's Manor and then Ink Geyser, we might have a much better chance. And maybe that's just the way we're gonna live this dream. And we're just gonna say, hey, you know what? We're gonna gain 2 lore a turn, 2-3 lore a turn over the course of 5-6 turns, and my opponent can't do anything about it. And it very well may be possible. And if that's the answer, and that's why Kit's good, then I can totally respect the idea of Kit. But nonetheless, it's nice to see that someone committed to Ink Geyser in of the 16 players. Yeah, All Is Found is one of those cards that I'm very high on. I think it's very good. I think that deck would play it really, really well, specifically in any of the Sapphire Coil versions. I think it's just so good. Seeing the way that you can put everything in the bag and resolve it. You put 2 ink into play, you get 2 Sapphire Coil triggers, you played a song, you got a Muse trigger. I mean, the sky's the limit for cards that you can remove with it at that point. So what's our other matchups here, guys? What do we got? DKP and Zan. Okay. We can talk about DKP and Zan, right? That sounds fun. Is this it right here? All right. So Zan, this is the deck that broke the world this weekend. Jeremy picked up a win with it. Zan picked up a top 4. That was a 138 player tournament at Star City or at Southside Gaming. Down here I should say up here in greater Northeast Philadelphia at Allentown, we had a 51 player tournament. The winner, Braden, playing this deck. The runner, or the top 4 player, in which Braden did beat in the top 4, David Nunez, playing this deck. So you have a 60 card replica in 2 top 4s in the same weekend with 2 wins of the exact same 60 card deck. So this deck's really good, guys. That's the breakout opening weekend for it. It is now, as I said earlier, it has a target on its back now. So we'll see how it goes. But in round 1, before these decks were released, there wasn't a big piece of knowledge on it. So there's still a lot of learning to be done for the round 1 of deck list. So I don't think any of these decks are going to like really play into it too much. And I certainly don't think that FAM's list was taking it into too much consideration. However, we do have 2 hideaways, and I think this is the key takeaway here. The big difference between FAM's list and a lot of the other Ruby Sapphire lists that I've been seeing is that he really did commit, to his version of it. There are no Sisus, there are no Sapphire Coils. We don't need those cards. We only have 2 Hyrims and 4 Popsicles, but we're still playing a Tamatoa. And this is the one card that I haven't heard yet from FAM, but I am interested to know like why the one Tamatoa? Is it just good enough to get 2 Popsicles back? Like, is that all we really need to do? Is it just like a more expensive Hyrim in a way, just letting me draw cards a little bit later? I think that's the most interesting card to me. It also could play into a world where when your opponents don't know your deck list and you put a Tamatoa into play, they might overreact and they might be like, oh man, I can't let them quest and get their free dime, like we can't do those things. So I don't know. It's tough to say. I think it feels so awkward in this deck. It feels shocking to me that he couldn't find a better 60th card. But, he's a master of this deck. So I definitely trust any decision he's making on it. And he's definitely well informed. I assume he has way more reps on a Ruby Sapphire than I do. That is for certain. But yeah, that's the one card that when I look at the list, it does stick out a little bit. But it is nice to see that, hey, this is a commitment to his version of this deck that he's been so very successful with over the last couple of months, and saying this is our set 7 version of it. And the key fundamentals here are, down Tala, down Hyrim, plus a Hideaway, plus this Tamatoa. I feel like there was not 2 Let It Goes before, but maybe there was in some versions of it. I always thought it was 1, but I could be wrong there. But everything else looks pretty much the same. There's not much of a change to this list that he won, DLC Melbourne with. So that's nice, right? Like two powerhouses of the format, right? Zan and DKP, 2 DLC winners. Great player. That's probably one of those games where it's definitely worth watching because it's just 2 great minds for the game. 2 players that are very committed to the success of Disney Lorcana at the competitive highest level of competitive. 2 great Metafy content creators. Zan puts out great work for Metafy. The masterclass for DKP is, I think the last time I looked at it, it was like 15 hours long or something like that. So whatever you're paying for a ton of content if you're like trying to be a Ruby Sapphire player and you want to hear from one of the best Ruby Sapphire minds. I mean, that's 15 hours of content, maybe more. Honestly, it might be more now. I don't even know. I know he went back and did a bunch of stuff over a lot of his gameplay from, I think it was, I don't want to be wrong, I think it was the Battle Bear tournament in February that he recorded over everything and did a lot of set. So if you ever like really just want to listen to the mind of it, it's great for it. And Zan, again, like Zan puts out guides for pretty much any deck that he's focused on in a given period of time. And it's there. The information is there. It's very interesting. So I'm obviously a huge Metafy person ourselves. And we did just recently update our guide, which is nice. We added a chapter for the Sapphire Steel list that Nunez took to a top 4 this past weekend. He kind of walked through the tournament, discussed his rounds and things like that, and also put a real big touch on teams. I think it's very important. Obviously it's been a big focus for us the last couple of weeks about what the importance of teams are. And, to not go into too much detail, like I had a conversation with Nunez last week and I said, hey, I think that you should play Emerald Steel this weekend. I think that no one's really talking about it on the team. No one seems to be focused on it. I think it's a deck that, it has a lot of opportunity in this set because like the new Pete is so good. I think Gantu is a bit of a disruptor. I think you're just going to like put a lot of your opponents on edge. And normally when you're playing a deck like that, you're putting your opponents on edge, they just make more mistakes. Whenever you play cards that tell your opponent they can't do what they want to do, it's like this just like immediate reaction of saying like, man, how do I compete with this? Like, what do I do? Like this changed my whole plan. How do I compete? So when you have cards like Pete and Gantu and then Pirate Pete, like you just tell your opponent they can't do what they want and they get very flustered and it's very likely that they make a mistake. I saw a lot of times where like someone plays a Pete and the very next card that gets inked is the song. And it's like, that song will still be good in 2 turns. I don't know if I would be inking that unless like I had to ink that, but I feel like I see it all the time. It's like, all right, play Pete, and you're like, oh, I ink my strength. Like, well, you might need that strength in 2 turns. So I don't know. It's one of those where I just thought it was very well positioned, but Nunez was very focused on Sapphire Steel, and we had posted a list a couple weeks ago, and this was probably about 2 weeks ago at this point. And he said, I really want to jam some Oswalds. And then I think I had a very similar conversation with Colby as well of just saying like, like maybe this is the time, maybe the Oswald is the time. And we did not get around to testing it per se, but the list that we had ready for like testing weekend was only 7 cards different than the list that Zan ended up posting in the MetaFi. So when we looked at it and we saw the list and we kind of looked it over, we're like, you know what, this is really close to what we thought it was. Zan said he went 50-0 on it, and I believe him. So like, why don't we just play it, get some content on it, get some understanding around it, and it's there. It was nice to see it in person. Obviously, we didn't know at the time that Braden was going to show up and also play it, so there was 2 of them in the room. A lot of information live. Obviously, in our tournament, only one match loss for the deck in between 2 players, and it was to the mirror match. So yeah, it's a really nice tournament report by Nunez, kind of go through like his event and just discussing all those things around. So I keep saying this, MetaFi is a phenomenal tool. Like if you're looking to get better at the game, there are so many great content creators on MetaFi. I just named 3 of them, including myself. I'm putting ourselves in there because we put a lot of content out there, and there's a lot to be read and a lot to be seen. So if you're looking to support these players and just make yourself better at Lorcana, and you want a specialty, you have Dale, who hasn't updated in a while, but his Emerald Steel guide was phenomenal when it came out around the Azerite C release. It was a really good guide. He hasn't updated in a while. I should kick him and tell him he needs to get on that. But there's Dale, there's Moy or Dale. I just lost everything, guys. Sorry. Zan, DKP, Sailor has some stuff on there. These are the ones that always come up. Wochuk has an Amber Steel guide. There's just so much good information out there. So if you're looking to make yourself a little bit better at the game, support some of the best players and their time and effort, no better way to do it through MetaFi. I said this like a couple months ago. Like we went from Patreon to MetaFi because the deal for MetaFi was just too good. It is without a doubt the best way to support. So huge shout out to everybody on MetaFi and kind of just putting the work in there for you guys. So let's go back to the bracket and break down the rest of these decks, right? So we have LD Lorcana decks versus Domingo. All right, I got to go find that because I forget where we put them. That was our end. So, all right. So here's Lorcana. Lorcana deck list was on the... Is this the exact same deck as Artifacts? It looks like the same deck as Artifacts. I could be wrong, but I feel like it's really close, right? Let me go. Where's Artifacts at, guys? Where's he at? Here it is. Is this it? Is this the same list? Is there anything different? All right, so the numbers are a little different because I saw 4 Grandma Tala in the other list, maybe less. So it's pretty close, though, right? Like, same strategy, same concept. Sapphire Steel is good, and we're playing against. I'm not even kidding, guys. I got to open up. I literally have to open up Dreamborn for this one because I don't even know what some of these cards do. So let me go like this. Let's kill this for a second. Let's present over here. And let's look at these cards together because I honestly, I don't even know what some of these are. Hold on. For some reason, it's not popping up. Let me see. Is this it? No. All right, let me bring up another window. For some reason, it's not picking up this window. I don't know why. So bring this up over here. Control V. This is why This is way easier to do in post editing, guys. Nope. All right. Boom. We will confirm that we're a human. All right. So here's Domingo's deck. If it decides to load. There it goes. All right. So there's a couple cards in here, right? So there's Mad Hatter. Is this mill? I saw someone say it looks like a mill strategy. Is that what we're going for here? Okay. Okay. All right. I can see that. I think that your comment there checks out. So it might be mill. So that might be understanding why I don't know what half the cards do. All right. So very interesting, right? Like I have, 100% no idea how this deck will function. I get it. It's now a mill strategy. I totally understand that part, but very interesting to start. So shout out to Domingo for being different and showcasing a world. But this is also what I really, oh man, but I got to hammer down here is that what I love about this is that Ruby Amethyst going to a brand new strategy is something I said like we really needed to happen because I don't think that the traditional fair version of Ruby Amethyst is like good enough into all these decks that are doing like super stupid unfair things. So I think it's very interesting that we go into a list that is so very different. I think that's really cool. All right, so if we go like this, and we can kind of bring some stuff up. We also have the Donald guy. Shout out to the Donald Duck, right? All right, so we have Show Me Mores. We have a very merry unbirthday. We have Amethyst Chromicons and Mad Hatter's Tea Part, right? So each opponent puts the top card of the deck. So that's mill. This Medusa is whenever you play, deal 2 damage, and then put the top 3 cards. So this is mill. Mad Hatter is also mill, right? So yeah, there's a huge commitment to this. Even Earth Giant, hilarious, right? It just lets them draw. This is hilarious. I literally have no idea whether or not this deck is good, whether or not it's a meme. Not a goddamn clue, right? But what I can tell you is that we are a mill deck, and then we just have 4 Mauis, 3 Tremaines, 3 Medusa, 4 Brawl, and 4 Be Prepareds. So we're not going to let our opponent win the game, and we're going to do our best to win the game via mill. No idea. Super different, super awesome. Was this one already on? Did this one get played yet? I don't even know. Hilarious though. This is so different. So very interesting. So yeah, very, very hard to say whether or not this deck is good because it's so different that I literally don't know. But I love the idea of going to be so different. That's always nice. Domingo lost. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Almost won, but mana trigger before the draw. Oh, wow. It was that close? Wow. Okay. That's cool. I like it. Got played. Would have won game 1, but sequencing mattered. Wow. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, that's cool. Oh no, he had the Donald in hand. That's nuts. Oh, that's rough. You know what's funny though? About like we talk about mill, right? Like it's one thing to play with your opponent that's sitting right across from you, right in front of you, and just be very aware of like his deck size the entire time. Playing over webcams, so much more difficult, guys. So even a bigger shout out. Like I keep saying this, the item deck, the Oswald item deck, that deck over webcams is miserable. Because we had it on stream, and even on stream, watching and seeing the whole mat, it looked miserable. You have like 20 cards in play at all times. So you're playing over webcams against your opponent, so much to track. Oh boy. Yeah, I mean, obviously, you got to zoom out, but it is tough. Like, it's one of those where some of the, like, a deck like Mill, like, trying to keep a track of what is normal, like, not a life total. It's kind of hard to explain, I guess, but So when we're playing for mill, like we're playing to 60, right? Like we're not playing for 20 lore. We're playing to 60 cards. So it's another like track that you have to keep, you have to pay attention to if you don't understand it. When you're on webcams, it's difficult. You got to consistently ask your opponent, like, oh, can you tell me that? Can you count it out for me? Can you do these things? And it just becomes more and more annoying because it's another thing that like has to happen like in this game where it's just not as easy when you're sitting across from someone. So that's no fun. Did the deck look good? I'll have to go and watch this game because someone had said something to me yesterday in our league night when we were playing over here, like, oh, did you see Domingo's list? I was like, no, I kind of haven't looked at the list yet because I was waiting to do the stream to talk about them and kind of just react to them like naturally. But I don't know. I love seeing stuff like this. I think it's cool. I think it's different. I think in any game, Mill should never be like a tier 1 deck ever. So that I think it takes a little bit of balls to bring it to an event with some of the best players in the game, right? Hard to say. Oh, okay. So game 1 was close, but game 2 was a blowout. Okay. Yeah, right. So like this is true, right? Where did this go? An open deck list, but his opponent kept drawing off Chromacon for no reason. Yeah, who cares, man? You just win. All right, back to our bracket. So was that everybody? I think we covered everybody, guys. I think we got them all. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's cool. I think it's interesting. I think it's nice to say, obviously, huge shout out to Pavel. Like putting this together again is really nice. I think that anytime you have the ability to watch 2 great players play a game, you can learn from it. At Southside Gaming a couple months back, the February of tournament, we had Zan and Zach Bibbins in round 1 in the Sunday tournament. And I remember I walked out of the room, because I was commentating the event. I walked out of the room and I saw them sitting across from one another. And I literally walked over to them. I'm like, are you guys about to play? Like, you're round 1? He goes, yeah. And I'm like, oh, you guys are going on camera. Like, there's not even a choice. Because it's such a nice thing to see when you have those players play against one another and you get to sit and watch those games. It's just a lesson. In most cases, you get to really get in the insight of how these players play in these games. And when you have the opportunity to do that, it's phenomenal. So anytime that Pavel is going to run these and he's going to put players in position to be in front of the world and kind of just showcase that level of gameplay, I think is huge. I really do. So I think it's nice. It's a really nice treat for us all here sitting in March. No DLC in sight. We don't know when Worlds is coming. Let's put set 7 on display with some of the best players in Disney Lorcana and see what they do, see what they cook. I'm very excited for it. This week's been a little bit busy for me on the content side, so I haven't sat and watched everything yet, but it'll probably be the rest of my goal today. I'm going to get caught up. I'm very excited to be commentating tomorrow, watching Mo, with this very interesting Ink Geyser deck. It's a deck that I'm very interested in because it's a deck I've been working on myself. So I'm curious to see how he'll do in this event if he sticks with it. I understand why the players are allowed to change their decks every round, but I don't necessarily agree with it. I just think it's kind of silly. Like, it's okay if we just play these decks, but it's also like, I don't know. Like, I know what we're playing for, and it's nothing insane. It's nothing crazy. So to me, it's, if you were going to commit to a tournament and you go into your tournament and you just play it all in one day, it feels a lot worse than like playing it over a course of a month. And that I totally get with. But I think like only committing one deck per round kind of sucks. I feel like these players should have been, like, at the very least had to be committed to 2 rounds to the deck. This way, even if they go into the losers bracket, like if they start out the tournament and they were wrong and their deck sucked and they want to change their deck in the losers bracket, like fine, like maybe you rally back with another deck and something like that. But I don't love the idea that every round they could just change it. And they did make an announcement, on the bracket here. They basically, when this website goes and like when someone plays, it showcases like your next opponent right away because of the way the bracket is, and that's just because how double elimination is. I think we were told that that's not going to happen, so I think they're going to reseed round 2. So it's not going to be like a guaranteed they're playing in this bracket, because that also doesn't make sense. because if you know who you're playing against, you're just like, well, I know I'm playing and I know they play this and that's their specialty, so I'll just like build something else. I think it defeats the purpose of it also. So I don't know. We'll see how Pavel handles it, but I think it's great. I do. I think it's cool. Should we be concerned? That we haven't heard anything about future DLCs yet or even a date for Worlds? I mean, yeah. I think someone had came out that last year on March 20th was the day that we had received the information about DLCs and the schedule for North America and Europe and like EU. So we're a week from that, but the difference between that day and this year is that they made an announcement in January saying, hey, in March, we're going to announce organized play. We have not had any such of announcement about organized play. We have not had any like indication from a lorecast even. Like if we had a lorecast for Arcade's Island, I think the entire lorecast would have been half, oh my God, this card's cool, and then half, when is Worlds? And I think that's probably why they didn't have it, because they didn't have the answer for it. So is it a problem? Yeah, it's a problem. Is it concerning? Yeah, it's concerning. I think the longer we wait, the more it'll suck. In any world where Worlds is too far into the distance and it pushes other DLCs from happening, I think it's a problem. So, there was once upon a time a rumored date that March was going to be Worlds, and then it was kind of erased from existence in like November of last year. It was reported in September of last year that Worlds would be in March, and then around November you can no longer find that information on the internet unless you had a screenshot of it. So, we'll see. I hope it's not much longer. Ideally, I think that I don't really want to go set 7 without an official organized play tournament, right? But I think if you announced, like literally just let's say today, if you announced today that there is Worlds is in May, I think it's enough time, for everyone to plan for it, but it's still kind of difficult. I do think the longer you go, we can't. I don't think that we can get to like mid-April, and then you're like, oh, by the way, Worlds is May 15th or something like that. Like I don't think you can do that. I don't think it's fair to EU at all. They have to have enough time to make this plan. They have to take time off from work. They got to make the schedule arrangements. They don't want to have to pay thousands of dollars for flights. So I think that you need to announce it soon. And the longer we go without getting an announcement, the longer it's going to be until the actual tournament. So I would put it on about a 3-month range. I think if you announce it now, it would be in May. If you announce it in April, it'll be in June, and so on and so forth. I don't think you can go anytime before that. So it kind of sucks that if we don't get anything in set 7, if there's no official tournament for set 7, that feels kind of crappy. Just because, we've been so privileged to be able to play with it. But I can also make the argument, really, Azerite C didn't really get one either. We had NACC with NACC 128 players, 96 players, and then 500 players in Melbourne. So that's less than 1,000 total players that played in official organized play outside of set championships for Azerite C. And I don't really think that was great. But if you go a whole season, no DLCs for your set 7, it's a bit of a worry. So I don't know. We'll see. I hope it's soon. That's all I can hope for. Dan just said to panic. Where is my pitchfork? Fair. It's crazy the cards are going for so much with no. Yes, I mean, we talked about this the other day, right? Like $80, man, $80 for Tamatoas. I made a joke for those of you who were in stream the other day. If you're not in the Discord, I posted the screenshot. In the Sapphire Steel chat from Tuesday, I pulled up that we had $105 Tamatoas, foil Tamatoas for sale. And I literally told everyone, you can go watch. I said, don't buy these. About an hour after stream ended, I sold those Tamatoas. I'm just saying. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Silence is terrible for the game and damaging to a moral of player. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's tough, honestly, because I think that it depends on the goals of players, right? If you just want to shout out to David Nunes, right? He said to me the other day before the encounter, I just want to play for stakes, And yeah, the greatest level of stakes is official organized play. It's definitely playing for a Mickey Mouse. It's playing for a World's invite, a Continental's invite. Like those are the stakes that we have been accustomed to learning to play for. But there are these third-party tournaments. They're some of the best players in the world. Charlie's Collectible Show in a couple weeks. We know for a fact that World Class Games are going to be there with Zan, with Kendall. A couple players from Maelstrom is going to be there. So you have these high-level players that are going to go and play in these third-party events because that's how they're going to express their competitive edge, and they're going to still go and show up and play against some of the best players in Disney Lorcana. And then a week after that, you have World Class Games or World Class Cards and their tournament in Wisconsin. So there's a couple weekends in a row in March that we can go and express our thing. But besides that, we have nothing. We don't know. Like right now, there's nothing announced for April, even though we can assume that there are going to be, big tournaments. We, from the last several months of Southside Gaming telling us like, hey, we're going to run some great events every month. We can make an assumption that Southside Gaming is going to have some level of tournament, but I don't think it's been officially announced yet. So that's hard to say. But outside of that, we don't know. That's where I get worried because if there is nothing to plan for in April, then yeah, like what are we kind of doing? And then I'm not the biggest league player. I don't follow it that much, but it did feel like the casual level of players were a little bit upset with how league is being handled. So that's also a little worry. If you're hitting the league players, you're hitting competitive players, you're kind of hitting everyone on each side. And then you tell me that set championships is until May. It's starting to feel like April is going to be kind of a dead month. And that's definitely concerning. So I don't know. Hard to say. I am trying to build a big hero Wreck-It Ralph deck. Can you help me build that? Right now, I don't know. We're talking about the 8-cost guy, big ham hands. He's really expensive, and there's not really a great way to cheat him into play to make the full effect of him, and that's kind of like the biggest problem. And even in a world where like we ramp on turns 2, 3, and 4 and put him into play, if he just like gets banished, we feel like we did a whole bunch of stuff for nothing. So I you can definitely make a version of this deck that is like is best version. Whether or not it's competitive in a format that's currently filled with a bunch of decks that are likely very unfair, I feel like that this version of that deck is likely only ever going to be a fair deck. And you can show up to league with it. You can definitely obviously have a good time and do things like that. But yeah, this is a great place for the Discord. If you're in the Discord, it's in the description. If you're on Facebook, it's like you can just click our Facebook and go right to the Discord as well. But we have a section for this, like players from the community go in, get involved, kind of talk about those things, like especially if you have a shell to start with. So that's definitely a great place for that. If you're not in the Discord yet, just join the Discord and then have a great conversation there about it. Yeah. I mean, I'm with you. I had such a fun time. Ironically, Melbourne was the first DLC that I watched in full. Every other DLC for the European, either I played in all the NA ones or I was there for NACC, so I didn't watch it. I was just there. When I did watch, I was just sitting in the crowd watching the games. And then for EUCC, well, 2 of them were on the same weekend, and then the other 2 I was working, so I just didn't watch any of them. So Melbourne, it was so much fun to sit with Dick. I think we did like 9 hours day 1, and then it was even longer day 2. And it was fun. It was fun to sit and watch competitive tournament. It was fun to watch almost all of it. Obviously, some of it was a little bit concerning, but that was all dealt with, thankfully. But yeah, I think it's nice that we can have this. I mean, don't get me wrong, like Charlie's Collectible Show, it'll be streamed by Lord 20 in a couple weeks. I have not heard if the World Class Cards event at the end of the month is going to be streamed, but I assume it will be. So hopefully, we'll have that to watch as well. And then, of course, Southside Gaming streaming their stuff. So, hopefully it's there. Hopefully we have fun games to watch. And then, of course, listen, we were talking about the whole this whole stream was LCCC. You're gonna have games from content creators that are streaming this all over. I'm not certain if they will all end up in one place. I do think that Inkdex is going to have something that you can go and click on and find this stuff, if I remember correctly. So if I don't know where it is right now, I'll find that link. I'll put it in the description of the YouTube. So if you're looking for it, it'll be there. I don't think I posted anywhere yet I have to go and find it. I am not coming to CCS this time. No, I did CCS in December. This time I'm staying home. I think I'm just taking that week off, in all honesty, because last week I'm going to stream. This weekend is my birthday, and I'm planning on going to play. Next weekend, I think I'm just going to take off and relax. And I'm hoping SSG. Miami is my next tournament I'm probably going to travel to. That's what I'm hoping for. So whenever the next SSG is, that's my my goal. I want to go and hang out with them again. They were so much fun. Everybody there was great. And yeah, this time I'm likely going to play unless asked to do anything else. So should be fun. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely games to watch. ICL on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Friday nights over on Wonderland. And then obviously ICL also has their own YouTube channel now. That's a great way to go see some of the best teams going head-to-head, playing games. It's been a lot of fun doing the banter of that. Obviously, I still wish there was some more characters in the ICL. I think everyone is too afraid to have fun with one another. So it's been meh, in my humble opinion. I would love a little more chatter in the Discord in general. I would just love more fun back and forth. Like we have, what's the day? The 13th. So we have 2 weeks before we have to play Freedom Gaming. And when the schedule came out, it was fun. We were all talking a bunch of crap, and then no one said anything for a week now. So I guess I got to get Dick Burns on stream again so he can just trash talk Sploosh or something. I don't know. But yeah, I think it's fun. It's nice. It's a little something to do, nice little distraction for everyone to go and watch. And now we have the LCC that just started this week. Again, there's listings for it all. I think on all the socials, we've been retweeting it. In Discord, there's a whole section of the Discord now that has all of the listings coming for it. So, yeah, I know. It is. It died. What happened? It died. It just died. It's just dead. Super dead. What up, gamer? How are you doing this morning? They stopped because they know they stand no chance. Yeah, I don't know. It sucks because I think it's supposed to be fun, and if we're not doing it for that and we're not having fun with it, then it's kind of just boring. And that's just me being straight up honest. There needs to be some more chatter in there, some more want to play the game. I get it, we're playing in a tournament and it's whatever, but we're not playing for anything other than bragging rights, and nobody's talking no one's even talking about it. So I think that and there needs to be some more chatter in there, a little more hype, especially on social media and stuff. There's just nothing going on. Everyone's too afraid. Everyone's too afraid to talk crap. I don't know. It's all in fun and games, in my opinion. I can't wait. Oh, that's fun. Fun fact. So I have the channel. We have now a second TCG player store, and I started it in very late January. I think it was the last week of January. And I hit level 3 within 3 or 4 days, super, super quick. The level 4 was a rough one. And for anyone that doesn't have a TCG player account, level 4 is it's insane. All the things you unlock at level 4 are so good that not having them on the Forbidden Mountain for so long and then not having them on this new thing. Oh my God, did it suck? Because you have to I listed over 5,000 cards one by one, and it sucked. So unlocking level 4, oh my God, it's like a cheat code. But you have to get to 51 sales, and 51 sales is a lot for a small store that no one wants to trust, which I respect, because when I buy cards, I don't buy it from people that don't have any rating. So I totally get that. But now that I unlocked it, I think over the last 3 weeks, I only had 8 sales in 3 weeks. I unlocked it yesterday, and I had 22 sales in the last 24 hours. Insane. Cheat code level for sure. Yeah. It's insane. So, but yeah, it's been fun. So I don't know. Fun couple weeks. For those of you that have been hanging out with me this morning, I thank you. I hope you guys all enjoyed Lorcana Man to start the stream. He's a great guy. You know, I've had every conversation I've had with him has been fun. He reached out to me last night on Instagram, and I completely missed it until this morning. And that's why I messaged him this morning. I'm like, yeah, I know it's like 7 a.m. there, but if you want to come hang out with me, come hang out with me. So, what advantage of having two stores from? All right, so I would say that there is no advantage. Okay, no advantage whatsoever. But the way that our business operates is that Scott and I live an hour apart. And very often what ends up happening is that myself and Kylie will open up all of the product. And with all of the product is it's like I got to open it all, I sort it all, and then I take it to Scott. And then, you know, when we do something like, you know, last weekend where we opened up 100 boxes, actually like 105 or 106 boxes of our KZIs last week, I was able to get 75 of those boxes completely organized and or like between 60 and 70 completely organized within 2 days. So I was able to go take all that, give it to Scott, and then let him start selling that weekend because we did the whole stream weekend with the team. So I wasn't home. I didn't have a store. But now, I mean, I have 25 boxes worth of organized cards here that instead of like me having to take 2 hours out of my day to go and meet Scott, I can just have a store, run it all, and just sell it all at the same price. And it's like, fine. And I'm not some expert, right? Scott is the expert. This was just my idea to save myself from having to drive to Scott's like once a week. So generally speaking, we've like flip-flopped over the last couple sets to where like he'll do an entire set. He'll do an entire set, and then I'll do an entire set. And that way, like neither one of us get burned out on it. This time, if we kind of like separated the stuff a little bit. I mean, he has like 75% of it. I only have 25, but it's still like saying like, okay, this is up, it's for sale, and it moves faster. The other big thing about it is that when a set is released and in the in-between time here, the set released to big box store, there's a huge difference of sale and like the cost of cards. Like obviously I said this guy a couple weeks ago, in no way, shape, or form will Tamatoas be $80 in 2 weeks. Like they're going to dip. Once big box gets stores, once the local game stores get like a replenish, everyone that bought cards last weekend bought them that kept them, right? Like they were keeping them for themselves. Now, as they start opening packs and opening stuff, they're going to be selling them in the card stores. They're going to be selling them on TC Player. There's going to be a lot more to buy. So when there's a lot more to buy, prices will drop. So the other advantage to that is that now that I have it organized, I can just list my stuff too and then quickly move it without having to like go and things. So it's really just because of the way we run our business and like how far we live apart, to save us time, it just felt like a good place to be like, you know what, I'll just list them and I'll sell them and I'll do all this crap, and like when it's gone, it's gone. So that's kind of where I'm at. SYP accounts are usually separated, I think. I don't know anything about that stuff, Braden. Like, I am not the expert on this in any which way. I just listen to what Scott and Dick tell me to do, honestly. But that's always a conversation I'm willing to have. I talked about the other day about bringing people on that I can learn from and like you guys can learn from and kind of experience. And that's like a conversation that I would, if it's anything that I can gain information on and I can learn more about, I'm all for it. So, but yeah, it's been fun. LCC, the next game starts at 2. If I remember correctly, Melissa posted a little bit ago. I think it starts on Specky's channel, if I remember correctly. If I scroll all the way back up here. Yeah, so here's today. So the Rat and Moyen are going to be on Specky channel. Ed and Artabax are going to be on JDZ Quest at 6. And then Kurt and Theo Time will be on Earls at 4. So a couple hours apart, a whole afternoon of gaming, which I think is great. So definitely go and check them out. And then tomorrow morning, I'm pretty confident it'll be on Wonderland and potentially here as well. Wonderland on Twitch and then Forbidden Mountain on YouTube. That's at least the plan, I believe. So we'll be able to watch a nice game for a 10 a.m. start, which I think is fine. But yeah, I think it's been fun. I'm really enjoying doing these. I will be back Tuesday morning for another episode of this, and I pretty sure I'm going to have another guest to start, which should be fun. Do they have an ICC? I don't actually know. I'm not positive. I will find out, and if it is, it'll be in the description again. But I'm not sure. I know that like there's a Pixelborn one. I think that there's going to be some link on Inkdex that has like a list of all of the stuff and where you can find it. So like, it's all probably spread out to all the different content creators that are a part of it and that are like showcasing it. And also, like just like a way to like centralize find it all. So I think that's going to be on Inkdex. The problem is I went to Inkdex earlier and it doesn't look like I can easily find it anywhere. So I think it's like a special link that you need, but I do believe it is public. It's just a matter of where it is. And right now I don't know exactly where it is, but I'll definitely add it to the description of the YouTube channel or the YouTube video. So that way anyone that's watching after will have it. But yeah, I'm going to get out here a little bit early today, kind of enjoy some things. I just told you guys I have like orders I actually have to fill. So I'm going to get out of here. I hope you guys enjoy the LCC today. Go check out Spessy. I'm going to go see if he's actually on Twitch now, and I can send you guys there before I get off of here because he might just already be hanging out preparing, is my guess. And again, so this is our bracket for the day for round 1. And they are, to my understanding, this bracket will not remain the same. So, like, Zach will not play the winner of Kurt and Theo next round. So the bracket is supposed to just get, like, reorganized, I believe. Yeah, I agree. It would be nice to have some central way. It's really hard to track all of it. Does not look like anyone is hanging out there, but there are someone that we can go and stream to. So let's set that up. Send our Twitch family onto a new channel and share the wealth forward. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me this morning. For anyone that was a new follower, you guys are awesome. I don't have it up on my computer ever, so like I can't actually see that you guys that did follow, but if you did and you are new, I do appreciate it very much. And if you're on YouTube and you hit that like button for me, you're great. If you're on Facebook and you hit like or love, I do appreciate it very, very much. We'll be back tonight. Myself and Dick Burns will be on the call for another live stream action. I have no idea what we're talking about tonight. Literally, I don't even know. I'm telling Dick Burns it's his show. So it's going to be, he'll be the host tonight. I will just be there to do whatever because all I've done all week is talked, lived, and breathed Disney Lorcana the entire week. So tonight, it's up to Dick Burns. So if it sucks, you guys can all yell and blame it him. But we'll be back tonight around 9 Eastern, hanging out with you guys again and just kind of enjoying it. For now, we're going to rate our friends. Who are we rating, guys? Who do we got? We got... Making sure. All right, we'll go raid our friend over here. A miracle. Send on the raid. Enjoy him. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me this today. And yeah, I'm gonna go relax for a little bit before I have to go pick up the kids from work. But I'll be back later tonight with Dick, and then on Tuesday morning we'll be back live again for another episode of the Morning Climb. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today, and we'll catch you guys later on.